Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video is going to be all on how you can achieve an icy blonde balayage on dark brunette hair, or what I like to call an icy brunette. So yeah, my client's starting level is just a natural, like level 4 or 5-ish. I'd say more so like a level 4, and we like our bright blonde icy tones. So it definitely is possible. You've got to have, the right candidate and the right hair type and texture that can handle it. So we'll kind of get into that here shortly. But yeah, nonetheless though, let's get started. So we did a full head on her last time. I was kind of doing some minor corrective work with it though as well. So we did not need to do a full this time. We just did a half head. And how I section off my half heads typically for balayaging is I go off their natural part. And then, as you guys kind of see me doing right here, I go an inch or two beyond the apex of the head, or the highest point. If you don't know what the apex is, it's the highest point of the head. And then I create a line in between, that highest point and a little bit behind the ear. Another thing you can do as well is if they have any split, I don't know if you guys saw previously, but she did have a little mini split in her hair. I try to go past that split if possible, just so that if, the wind blows or if that split is exposed, you're not seeing what I like to call a dark hole. The half heads are a little bit more of a maintenance appointment, but we don't want to make it, we don't want them leaving with obvious spots of them like not getting their hair colored at. I like to say half heads are like a good way to like fake the full, if you will. All right, so let's get started. So as you guys see me doing right here, I'm going along what I kind of call like the halo sectioning. So the halo is like it's beyond just the money piece or beyond just the face framing. It is the face framing with the ears and the back of the head. I'll get to the back of the head in a little bit. That's going to be the last section I do today. But what I start off doing is back to back, very fine slices. She likes a very bold yet blended money piece. So that's why I am opting for some back to back, fine baby lights, if you will. And I pretty much do this the first like 2 inches of the head. And then once the head starts to kind of round a little bit, once you notice too that like the growth pattern starts to change. So this section I'm doing right now, I started to notice that this is where the hair starts to naturally want to fall more to like the side or a little bit behind the back of the head and doesn't want to fall as much forward. That is kind of what I call like your growth pattern, is where does it naturally want to lay. And that is when I wanted to start to implement more teasing. And still for these frontmost sections though, as you guys see, I'm still doing just a like traditional slice highlight with no teasing. And I'll just kind of piggyback off of, what part I'm actually working on. I go along the curvature of the head. So I just kind of let, whatever section is next laying to the previous section I did. I just kind of let it dictate what I should be doing. So again, this one is another longer section that grows. I'm over directing it now as I'm holding it, just so that it will be more bolder when everything is, done and it's laying down. But if you see, since I am over directing it, it naturally wants to fall to the side and to the back. So those sections are the sections I like to have a little bit extra depth with and a little bit more dimension. I'm going to start implementing some leave out and some dimension here shortly in these back sections. So I start off first doing back-to-back slices for the most maximum impact as possible. And I do a few back-to-back slices that are teased to start to encourage a little bit of depth and dimension. And then when I get towards the top, that is where I do a little bit of weaving or slicing with some leave out. And I'm going to start to kind of implement that here where I'm not leaving out a lot, just a little bit. And then I'm teasing. She has quite a bit of baby hairs, the first like 2 inches of the head. So I'm really just pushing those out of the way is kind of how I dictated it. And then since she does have a lot of baby hairs, that's why you see me using an additional clip too, just to keep them all clipped up. That's definitely one of my favorite tricks. Just because sometimes when you start to paint on the foil and on the hair, it'll start to push some of those baby hairs down. So again, if your client has a lot of baby hairs, or if you feel like to, I like to weave a little bit softly, just so that I'm not detangling a ton at the bowl, honestly. Sometimes though doing that, the tease doesn't want to stay in place. So that's where, again, the second clip can come in handy. All right, so you just saw previously, I like to kind of like pre-section out just the money piece for this. And how I do that is I kind of continue that previous halo sectioning that I had started. I connect a line between that, and I pretty much just finish that at the part line where my section stops for that side. And I just kind of like to do this so that I can know that I'm just, for these sections, I know I just need to be focusing on doing money pieces right now. And I don't need to worry about like, oh, should I start to, you know, should I weave? Should I tease? You know, all that stuff. I just know at this point, I can tell I tell myself in my head, these are all the money piece sections. So however I need to do that, that's what I like to just focus on the money piece all on its own. And as you guys see, I'm sure you're not surprised, you know, since we were doing the same, you know, down at the halo part. We're doing all back-to-back, all back-to-back slices. I'm getting slice, weave, and tease all mixed up. I'm so sorry. All back-to-back slices, especially right here in the frontmost part of the head. As I work my way to the very topmost sections where the head starts to curve, where it starts to round out, that is where you may want to start having just a little bit of teasing, just to kind of give a little bit of diffusion and fluidity so that it starts to flow with the sides and the top or the head of the head where it is going to be a little bit more rooty, just to, again, start that transition. But you got to talk to your client, communicate with them, see what they're doing, what they're wanting. Like I said, we wanted a very bold money piece. I don't do this bold of a money piece for everybody, especially not on brunettes, actually. But she likes her bold money piece, and with how her hair is cut and how it lays, it works for her. So, yeah, that's how we're able to do it. So I hope that makes sense. Definitely sound off in the comments if you have any questions. You're going to watch me finish up this money piece here, and then I'll start to kind of do the same thing that I was doing along the sides and the topmost part. The only thing that, like I said earlier, only thing different I'll be doing is implementing a little bit more dimension, a little bit more teasing, just to kind of have it be a little bit more softer as it makes its way through that like top back point of the head, and it still has its like bold impact up front. So some things you can do to encourage the most highest impact of lift on the darkest of, you know, natural hair, kind of like what we're doing today. For one, you need to make sure that your client is a good candidate for it. I pretty much have the same, maybe a little bit darker, but you know, I'm a natural dark brunette as well as my client Nikki right here. But my hair texture, I know I can't handle, my hair cannot handle a color like this. My texture is way too fine, way too brittle, and my hair could honestly barely handle clay lightener, if you want to be completely honest with you. My color right now, I've literally done all with clay lightener, and if it wasn't for like K18 and Olaplex, my hair would be on the floor. But I know my hair, and I know that that's what it can't handle. So you need to make sure that that your client, if they want this kind of color, you want to make sure first, can their texture handle it? Another thing you need to do too is make sure that their color history is not completely erratic. I have some clients that have, you know, dark permanent color on them, and this would not be a realistic color for them to get to. At least if it's something that they want to work towards, it would take a very long time. Nikki here pretty much had only like a little bit of demi-permanent color on her, and so still with that, some of the sections still took a little bit longer to lift than the normal, and that's expected with these dark level 4, level 3, you know, types of clients. Another thing to keep in mind as well with more difficulty to lift are coarser haired clients. Clients that have just like, if their strands are naturally super duper strong and thick, it's going to take them a very long time to process. So be sure that you are considering your lightener formulations accordingly as well. You may want to, you know, boost up your lightener. You also want to communicate that to them as well. This is going to be a longer process, especially if you're doing it all in one day. It could take up to like 4 to 5+ hours and would likely be quite a bit more money-wise. Like I said, this is definitely one of those colors that not everybody is a good candidate for. And I've definitely learned that through my years, especially like when I was first doing hair, you guys, I swear, the silver blondes with the darkest brown of roots were all the rage, and that was very hard to do on a lot of people, but that's where I learned, I feel like, a lot of these things, and I learned what is, you know, what's worth it and what isn't in terms of just like what can the hair actually take. So yeah, it's a finicky thing, but also too, like I said, these colors are definitely very expensive colors, just like not even with like the price point, but just the look of it. It looks expensive. It is definitely one of those, like, they stand out. And yeah, it's not a one size fits all color. I'm sorry. In my opinion, I just don't think it is for if they're naturally brunette. Now, if they like the look of it and they're naturally not as dark, you know, and you do dark roots on them, that's a little different. But yeah, so just to repeat off of what I said, fine yet strong texture pretty much is what I would recommend. And to get this too, like as a stylist, to get it on your clients, fine sections is key. Look at even like my sections I'm taking right now, as you guys see, they're still very fine. And even though this is a half head, I'm still packing in all of those foils. Even though this is a maintenance appointment to the client, you don't want to make it look like it's a maintenance appointment. So you want to make sure that you're charging accordingly as well. This honestly took, I think, around the same time that my average full takes me, between the longer processing time of her being a natural level like 4 and the amount of foils I need to pack in. Even though it was a half head, it's still between the extra time it takes to apply and all the extra product and whatnot, you just want to make sure that everyone is charged accordingly. You don't want to make these, especially for these specialty colors, they're definitely not, like I was saying earlier, it's not one size fits all for what the client, for each client. Pricing itself has to be, considered that way as well. Some of my half heads, they're in and out the door within a couple hours, and this one took me, I think, around, like I said, around like the time my average full takes me, which is between like 3 to 3.5. So that's especially why I tell all my clients starting out, when they ask for pricing, I can give them, my starting range, but until I know what exactly that client needs, we're not going to know the exact kind of pricing until I've actually done their hair. Now, after doing hair for a while, I have an idea of what I can quote them, but I still keep that a very, very, very wide range so that there's no surprises. And then, and the client knows, what the max it could be, and, everyone's just on the same page. So keep that in mind. These colors are definitely not a low maintenance thing. So, you just want to make sure you communicate that to the client as well. For Nikki here, we normally do this is my second time doing her hair, but, she normally likes to come in. She knows that this is a higher maintenance color, and she's normally getting her hair done every 3-ish months. And I'd say that's a pretty good point, as long as they're taking care of their tone at home, or they're okay with the fact that it will probably, come up warmer over time. Then the grow out itself is actually pretty nice. It's just, again, more the tonal maintenance, and it's just because, we're keeping it nice and rooty in the back. So I hope that makes sense. Again, let me know if you have any questions over that. The lightener that I'm using today is Oligo Extra Blonde Black Light Lightener and their Cool Tone Blonde. Started off with 20 volume, and then I moved my way up to 30. That's how I do most of my lightening services. Just normally if they start off with a little bit of a lighter natural hair, or if their hair is really, really fine, I'll start off with more of a 10 or a 15. But since this was my second time doing her hair, and I know it takes her hair a little bit longer to lift than I would like it to, I knew though too that she's got a strong enough cuticle that I could start with 20 and again move my way up to 30. And if you don't know Extra Blonde and Cool Tone Blonde, I like Extra Blonde, their white lightener, for the lifting power. It lifts up to 9 levels, but I like the Cool Tone Blonde, lifts up to 8 levels for more like the control and the neutralization. It lifts a little bit slower. And I do like that it's blue, and it kind of, again, neutralizes as it goes. But it's not too blue to the point that it tricks your eye either, especially when you mix it in with the white lightener. So what you see me doing here in the back is I'm connecting that halo all around, and I am adding those connecting foils in the back. We did a lot of, we had to do quite a bit of corrective work underneath here when I did her hair last time, and it grew out really, really well. So I actually didn't have to do as many back halo sections. But anyway, this is what it all looks like as it's all processing. It looks kind of weird because of it just being the sections in the sides, but since we go past that high point of the head, those side sections will fall to the back, which is really nice. This is how her hair looked like after it was all, this is before it was pre-toned, just all the raw lift. We lifted to about an 8. Some sections lifted to closer to a 9. And then this is how it looked like with, after I did, this was Fonola's No Orange Blue Shampoo. And then for her root, I use Aligo's Colora Gloss. You see that sitting on there right now. I use 4N and 6A with their cream developer. I let that sit first for a little bit, and then I went in for the ends. I used Colora Gloss again from Aligo. I used 8AI, 8GI, 8A, 9B, and 7B to make an 8B. Pretty much did that all equal parts, and look at the after. We were so obsessed. This was like perfect. Loved it. She's got a nice bright bold money piece, but it's super blended. It'll still grow out super well on her, and she takes, I can't remember if I said this earlier, but she takes great care of her tone at home also. So this should be plenty fine for her for maintenancing. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it, you guys. I hope I covered everything. I hope that you guys learned something new. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you guys leave. And yeah, I'll just kind of have you guys watch these last few clips. I'll have some curl clips in here pretty shortly. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.